What a day it's been. Sometimes Fridays seem like a distant dream. I dropped my purse on the couch and casually tossed my coat over the back, not caring much about.
Neatness sinking into my favorite chair.
I reclined until I was practically lying down. Part of me wanted to fling my shoes across the room in frustration, but I held back, not wanting to risk breaking. Something looks like you've had quite a day. You are right. It was Jim coming in from the kitchen where he was preparing dinner. Rough day dealing with people who seem to lack basic sense, not stupidity. Just immaturity. Feels like I've been watching a slow motion disaster unfold. Sounds tough. Want to talk about it. I was torn. I wanted to spill everything to him, but I didn't want to burden him with the same frustrations I was feeling. Did I really want to unload all this on the man I care about? No, not much point. Let me freshen up for dinner. Dinner's not ready for another half hour. Relax for now. A minute later, he returned with a glass of chilled white wine and a plate of crackers, cheese, and olives. My favorite snack. What did I do to deserve you? I have no idea. Maybe I kicked a baby or smacked a nun. Who knows? He grinned. And so did I. Sister Mary Alice in sixth grade. I was this close. We shared a laugh. And he went back to the kitchen while I sat sipping my wine and nibbling on the snacks, reflecting on the day. What's with people? They have everything they need, yet crave more. Sometimes it feels like some of them just do things to prove they can. If I told Barbara not to jump off a cliff, she'd probably do it just to defy me. At least I was finally home, finishing half my wine and nibbling on the snacks. I made my way upstairs for a quick rinse. In the shower, I slipped into my most comfortable attire, sweatpants, and one of Jim's cozy flannel shirts. Rushing downstairs just in time, I found Jim and the kids arranging plates and serving bowls on the table. Well, Mom, is this the new dinner attire? My cheeky 12-year-old daughter Claw couldn't resist a comment. Jim chuckled. Cut her some slack. She's had a tough day. Then, after a beat, he added, when you supposed to meet the girls for drinks? And just like that, reality crashed back in. Yeah, but I didn't stay. I just wanted to be home. My boys seized the opportunity. Jacob, at 10, chimed in. Mom's not as wild as she used to be. 8-year-old Paul joined in. Mom's ancient now. Looks like the kids inherited my quick wit. All right, that's enough. Lay off your mom. She's had a rough week, thank goodness. For Jim, the meal proceeded with the usual chaos, everyone talking at once, debates about everything, and a rapid back and forth of challenges and encouragement. In other words, a typical evening at the Erickson household. But by the end, I felt surprisingly recharged. The kids darted off to tackle their homework in preparation for Saturday games. Even at their young age, they were learning to manage their time. Jim offered to tackle the dishes, urging me to pour another glass of wine and relax in the living room. That sounded like heaven. As I sat there, I couldn't help but reflect on my life and feel immensely grateful. A loving husband, 3 kids who relied on me, and a life I wouldn't trade for anything. Barbara, my friend, had all those same blessings. Her husband, Tom, was wonderful. Her kids were friends with mine, adorable and delightful. So what on earth was going on with her? The post-work drinks took a sour turn, and I quickly declared my need to head home. Bill Bradley appeared not long after we got there. They weren't even attempting to conceal it. If she wasn't having an affair with him yet, it seemed imminent amidst the drinks and dancing, the subtle touches and intimate whispers face to face, so close it felt uncomfortable to share the same table. I excused myself and left for home. They hardly acknowledged my departure. That moment was when it hit me. I had 2 reasons to be furious with Barbara. First, she was betraying Tom, who happened to be Jim's friend. Then there was the way they drew me into their inappropriate behavior during those drinks. Anyone witnessing me sitting there would assume I condoned their action, implicating me in their betrayal of Tom, and consequently of Jim. She made me feel tainted, and I hadn't done anything to deserve it. I stewed over the whole mess while Jim strolled in after finishing the dishes. He placed another plate of crackers and cheese, refilled my glass, and draped his arm around me as he settled beside me, ready to talk about it. I just shook my head. I couldn't bring myself to tell him. If I did he feel obligated to tell Tom? But what was there to tell? It was just my suspicions about his wife's inappropriate behavior. I nestled into his side and murmured, just sit with me for a while. Anytime, beautiful. That's how our evening passed. We put the kids to bed, and Returned to the couch, we glanced at the TV, though I couldn't tell you what was playing. Eventually, we headed to bed. My wonderful husband held me as I drifted to sleep, never pressing me again about what was bothering me the following week. Followed the usual pattern. Work was chaotic, home even more so. I silently expressed gratitude for my job, my loving family, and enough wisdom not to take them for granted. I felt compelled to confront Barbara about her behavior at least once, believing it wouldn't be genuine friendship if I didn't. Some might argue it wasn't my place, but I sensed a personal stake in it. Sooner or later, her actions would involve me, whether by witnessing them or by the pain Jim would endure trying to support Tom. On a Tuesday, I invited Barbara to lunch, hoping to discuss her behavior after work. That Friday, as the meal arrived, I delicately broached the subject, thing innocence about her actions. Although I knew better, I cautioned her that someone might misinterpret her actions. But before I could say much, she back at me. Who do you think you are? Meddling in my business. What I do and who I do it with is my concern. It spiraled downhill from there. Her outburst drew attention from other diners, and she swiftly packed her meal to go. As I glanced around at the staring patrons, I thought, well, that went smoothly. The following day, she offered a half-hearted apology that felt more like a warning. Annie, I know you mean well, but keep out of my business. I know what I'm doing and don't need your judgment. After that, our conversations dwindled. A little over a week later, on a Friday afternoon, chaos erupted. I was at my desk when screams pierced the air. My initial instinct was to call 911, but I hurried to the commotion only to find Barbara collapsed and weeping on the floor. A crowd had gathered, and as she locked eyes with me, the sorrow morphed into rage. You betrayed me, didn't you? You just had to stick your nose in all. Eyes focused on me as I puzzled over her accusations. Then I spotted scattered papers from a manila envelope in front of her. Tom knew she was caught. Despite her continued screams, I calmly replied, no, I didn't tell anyone. Before returning to my desk, leaving her to her woes. I had tried, but what did I gain? I had warned her, and now she had to face the consequences. Throughout the afternoon, friends and coworkers approached me, curious about the commotion. I quietly declined to discuss it further. There was no need to air her dirty laundry. She had already done enough of that herself. When I returned home that night, it echoed the scene from 2 weeks prior. I dropped my purse on the couch, flung my coat over it, and collapsed into a chair. That's where Jim found me. He didn't say a word. He just stood there waiting for me to break the silence. Tom served Barbara with divorce papers at her workplace today. A rare, sorrowful expression settled on my husband's face as he simply nodded. I think she was having an affair with Bill Bradley. Jim's demeanor remained unchanged. Then it struck me you knew. He nodded quietly. How long have you known? About 3 weeks. Jim settled into a chair nearby and said she wasn't even trying to hide it. Witnesses saw her shamelessly flirting with Bill several times. Her behavior wouldn't have passed any test. Especially, though, would you behave this way in front of your husband? Test. I understood the test. He referred to the measure of conduct when your spouses around. Once Tom heard from several friends he hired someone to track her movements. They even placed a tracker on her car. Before long, they went just following her. They were getting there ahead of her, so there's no doubt. Not assured, I see more of Barbara and Bill than I ever wanted to, if you catch my drift. Tom showed you photos of them. Jim nodded, his face contorting as if he bitten into a lemon. He even showed me a picture of you sitting with them one evening after work. He asked if you knew about their affair. There it was, trying to help a friend, only to get burned yourself. I looked at my husband, desperation creeping into my voice. I suspected, but I wasn't certain. That night was the first time I realized what was happening. I went for drinks with her after work, and Bill's appearance upset me so much that I left. I tried talking to her, but she refused to admit anything. That's the truth. You have to believe me. Jim reached for my hand. I understand. I pointed at the photograph and showed him your expression. I could tell you were uncomfortable. He saw it too. Oh, Jim. I tried to reason with her. She just yelled and stormed off. I couldn't reach her. I know, sweetie, I know. It seemed like everyone was telling Tom about her behavior, almost like she wanted to be caught, but I can't figure out why. What do we do now? He pondered that for a moment, then Shrugged, I'll continue being there for. Tom, you'll need friends more than ever. And you'll have to decide if you can still be there for. Barbara, then it was my turn to shake my head. She pushed me away. I'll try to offer some comfort for old time's sake, but if it's between Tom and Barbara, I'll choose Tom. He doesn't deserve this. I guess on that point we were on the same page. Age dinner time approached Jim, and I teamed up to prepare the meal, savoring the moment. Sometimes witnessing the errors of others helps us cherish what we have. In that moment, I realized I had everything I needed right here in this home. With the kids fed, games played, and tucked into bed, I sat with my husband, reflecting on the challenging day we'd had. I'd never do to you what Barbara did to Tom. Never, I'd never do that to myself either. I'll never be that person. I despise myself. Jim held me close. I know honestly there's not a husband alive who doesn't have a tiny worry that the woman they love might find someone else more appealing, but I know if that ever happened, you tell me. Instead of doing what Barbara did, his words stung. How could he doubt me? I sat up, meeting his gaze. I could never love anyone more than you. Never. You and the kids are my whole world. Even when I snore, he always knows how to lighten the mood. Yes, even when you snore, even when I watch the game instead of mowing the lawn. Yes, even when you watch the game. And even when I leave my dirty socks on the floor. I paused for a beat. Well, finally, it felt like the awful day was behind us. I looked at my husband, saw the love in his eyes, and said, I think we need a little bonding time tonight. Do you? Relaxed in bed, we were abruptly reminded that kids will never respect privacy. Our door swung open, and in stormed three hyperactive kids demanding breakfast. We were bare, and as I struggled to cover up, I caught my daughter's wide shock in a hand covering her mouth. Okay, she knew what they barged in on, but the boys barged in too. Jacob hesitated at the bedside, but Paul jumped in completely. Oblivious, together they started negotiating breakfast: pancake syrup, bacon, and orange juice. At that moment, I'd have promised them the moonclaw hustled them out, sporting a mischievous grin as she closed the door behind them. Jim was trying and failing to stifle his laughter. We've been caught red-handed. Yep, busted indeed, and I wouldn't have it any other way.